Good evening, it's Thursday, August 27th. Thought for tonight, thought maybe you might be interested in where the idea Everyday Talk came from for the videos and whatnot. But Everyday Talk is really from this book, which was written a while ago. And Ruth and I were trying to figure out a title for it. And I had the manuscript basically written. We knew it was about language, we knew it was about talking to your children about God, but we were trying to wrestle with what was a name for it to come up with it. And Ruth had the idea of Everyday Talk. She also, as you know, she was the one that, if there's any sense in this book, comes from her. But we also struggled with the introduction, or rather I struggled with the introduction. And finally Ruth just said, look, I can write the introduction. So she did. And I'm going to read from you the last two paragraphs of this introduction, which explains the reason behind the book Everyday Talk. It explains the reason behind the everyday thoughts that we're engaging in, that you all are so patient and kind to listen and engage about. But this everydayness with life, that's what God's about. So Ruth says this at the end of the introduction. God is not just a Sunday God, He's an everyday God. If you live in awe of Him, your children will see that. If you love Him and serve Him, you will talk about Him every day, and your children will hear that. This book is written to help you understand and use the influence of your everyday talk on your children. Everyday talk is something different. The everyday talk that your child hears now will influence him for the rest of his life. My prayer is that this book will help you learn how God wants you to talk about Him every day. And that's really the driving force behind the book and the things that I'm engaged in right now and the stuff that Ruth and I were engaged in the bulk of our lives. One aspect of Everyday Talk in the book is in the section called Pleasant Words. And that's in that concept because what we're doing when we're talking and what Deuteronomy instructs us to do is we're giving our children a worldview. That may sound like it's a fancy term or a philosophical term. It's not. It's the way you look at the world. Biblical obedience and the way we give that obedience forms a worldview in our children. Worldview is how we look at the world, how we address the world, and how deeply, for a Christian, how deeply God influences that. So, a passage that was pivotal to the book and is still pivotal to me, and again, a passage I need to talk about more because it is so instructive, is in Proverbs chapter 16, verses 20 through 24. At the center of that passage is these words: understanding is a fountain of life to those who have it, but folly brings punishment to fools. If we embrace life the way God wants us to, it blesses us, it encourages us. So in Proverbs chapter 16, in these 5 verses, they form a kind of a technical term in Hebrew poetry, but in other issues, other poetry as well. They form a chiasm. There's a group of verses centered around, or a group of thoughts centered around one key thought. And in Proverbs 16, 20 to 24, 22, verse 22 is that key thought. Insight is the fountain of life for the one who has it, but the discipline of fools is folly. So that's that key point of life. If you embrace life, this everyday view of God, you find life. But if you turn from God, if you live as a fool, remember the biblical definition of fool, and specifically the one that is used in the wisdom literature in Proverbs, is a fool is one who acts as if there is no God. A fool says in his heart there is no God. So a fool may be intelligent on world standards, but he's given to folly and foolishness if God is at the center of it. So this is the center point. And then they're framed by these words. Verse 20, the one who understands a matter finds success. The one who trusts in the Lord will be happy. That's the top frame. The bottom frame is, pleasant words are a honeycomb, sweet to the taste and health to the body. So we want to understand, we're talking about pleasant words, words of life. Those are indeed an encouragement to us. Anyone with a wise heart is called discerning, and pleasant speech promotes learning. The heart of the wise person instructs his mouth. It adds learning to his speech. That's the foundation that we're looking at. Everyday talk should be pleasant talk because it's about the beauty of God. If we're going to represent God well, we're representing life-giving words to the people that we're talking to. If you're a parent, it's your children. It's the people you're dealing with, that it's the people you deal with in life. You want to present God with pleasant, sweet words because it's pleasant words that promote instruction. It's pleasant words that give life. Pleasant can be firm, pleasant can be direct, but you're presenting a life-giving, life-changing worldview. And we do that with everyday talk. Our everyday talk is what influences those around us the most. It's what counts. So that's where everyday talk came from. And that's why I use it. It kind of marks what I do. And sweet memories of Ruth and her vision for this. But more importantly, it's what God wants us to be about. So the Lord bless you this night, and may your everyday talk, your every night thoughts right now, bring honor to Him. Lord bless you, and rest well.